Braxcast time once again. This is the 38th episode of the Braxcast, and this is a bit of a slow news week for the Rippaverse. Of course, it isn't for other things, but I'm not going to get into the other things that have been happening this week. This is purely about comic books and the Rippaverse specifically, and since we're coming off of the initial hype of the Bloodroof campaign launching on October, and we're heading towards fulfillment of Horsemen, there really isn't too much new stuff to talk about. It's more about just summarizing some of the stuff that happened in October, and of course, I'll be wildly speculating on Bloodroof and Zalen, because those are the most recent characters that are, I would say, in the general psyche of the fandom, if that's something that exists. But we're going to start off with the cosplay contest. So, cosplay contest winner is green-haired anti-liberal for her cosplay of Bloodroof. Very relevant, considering her first, book has just launched in October. Pretty successful, I believe, over $350,000 in sales. So there is a strong fan base that surrounds the Rippaverse, and they don't engage with every single book. Of course, not everybody who bought Isom bought Yaira, and that's perfectly okay. But there is still a good demand for the content that the Rippaverse is making, and that's why they're experiencing the success that they are. And that's why I really admire this company for building on the success that they've experienced with Isom and only using it to do bigger, better, and dare I say greater things. But green-haired anti-liberal is the winner of the cosplay contest, and since the entrance or the entry requirements didn't require posting on social media, it was just submitting to a web page on the Rippaverse site. I don't have any other cosplays I could find. The only ones I could find were ones from 2022 during the con season of Isom number 1, during 2022 when Isom 1 had launched in that con season. I think Chris Nova did a Yaira cosplay. There was a guy who cosplayed Braxwell at MegaCon, I believe. I couldn't find anything other than that, and this is the winner, so I figured I'd just highlight her. And we'll go get that there, and we'll move on to, I don't have a picture printed out for this, but the Rippaverse during the month of October held a charity auction for St. Jude. The winner of that auction would get canonized in Rippaverse, only a couple panels and an upcoming book. The winner of that is Chris Bacon. He did talk about it quite a bit on Twitter. But he, made an auction, he won, or he made a bid on that auction, won, and he will be canonized in a future Rippaverse title. No idea what it is, only going to be a couple of panels. That's what the contest said. So congratulations to him, and I always love these charity events because definitely are people in need, and I would say, called to help them regardless of regardless of your personal ideology. I think that's a higher calling and part of the purpose of humanity. But that's getting way out of the topics that this podcast is meant to address, and we're going to move on to wildly speculating. So Horseman, like I said, is coming up soon, so I don't want to get into anything about Hector's story until I have the book. I can read it, review it. That's when I'm going to dive into it. But we've got Bloodroof, we've got Zalen, and this is some really interesting stuff because I think they're more linked together in terms than you would initially think. And I think they're not linked as in like there's stuff that draws them directly together. It's more like there's a common denominator that exists between them that I think is really interesting to speculate on. So we're going to be talking about Zalen first. So Zalen is going to be the cosmic character. He's really going to blow the doors open on the cosmic aspect of the Rippaverse. Of course, the stuff that exists and happens beyond Earth in the universe that the Rippaverse exists. Now, we know there are different dimensions, but in the dimension that Earth is on, with Flores Park, Yaira, the Alpha Core, Isom, Darren Fontano, San Juan, all those guys that you know and love. There is definitely a larger universe, a cosmos, and Zalen is going to be our introduction into that. And who better to make that introduction than Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett, who really smashed it out of the park with Alpha Core number 1, and who seem to be bringing back their A game with Horseman. Of course, I haven't read it yet. Preview really drew me in. I really want that full book in my hands based off that preview, and I'm sure a lot of the fan base does as well, and which is what really makes it so epic that they're doing this book Zalen, what kills must die. So I do think that there's a lot of opportunities for Zalen story to really blow the doors off of the teasing of the more cosmic aspect of the Rippaverse that we got in Yaira #1, with, of course, Tony, Yanessa, and Magus Numite basically coming from Earth. Of course, you have the whole beam of light that gets Stefania mixed up with her powers being given, seemingly that there are like these, extraterrestrial supernatural forces that are acting upon Earth. Of course, Yara came crashing down the ancient Iceland and basically was like a Viking matriarch and had a bunch of kids with her lover. I forget. Was it Gorm? I believe it was Gorm, if I can remember correctly, if I'm getting that correctly. And then she, sticked around until her great grandchildren died because she was basically immortal. Very interesting thing. But the whole point is that we've got this teasing of that in Yaira 1, the cosmic aspect of the Rippaverse. And of course, if you've read the Dokumon cards, Brian Solari's Dokuman cards mentions that he fought aliens. So there's another little teasing of the Rippaverse. We know that aliens exist in the Rippaverse. Is Zalen the alien that Brian Solari fought? And he's on the run after his run-in with the Alpha Core, and he doesn't want to go back to Earth. Maybe. Maybe it's one of Zalen's races, one of a member of Zalen's race, because it seems like this is definitely like a Viltrumite type of character, or a character that conforms to the Viltrumite race. If you know Invincible, basically these like Superman powered beings that get younger, or that their age slower as they get older. So they're basically immortal, super strong. They can breathe in space for like weeks, basically because they really don't need that much oxygen. And you see Zalen in space with the 2 stars in this picture. So he definitely could be a race like that. He could know Yanessa and Yantoni, or Guyver's race as well. It definitely looks a bit different. He's got the elfish ears. He's definitely got this like Vulcan thing going on. So he's definitely not of the same race that Yaira is. Maybe they know each other. So there's a lot of like, who does Zalen know? Where is Zalen going? That's really the speculation. But I think, the idea of, Zalen or a member of Zalen's race being who Brian Solari had the encounter with under Aliens, as mentioned by Dokuman, is a really interesting thought to consider. And this leads me to the next thing, is that you've got, of course, the Dokuman cards, and I'm showing the box of the second deck. Does Zalen know Dokuman, right? Since we know that Dokuman can travel dimensions, I would assume that would lead him to be able to travel throughout the cosmos in the way, like a Zalen or a Yaira or a Yantoni, Yanessa, and Magus Numite can. And of course, I think his interest is falling far outside of the range of just Earth. Of course, he's focusing on Earth, but if he knows that Brian Solari fought aliens, if he knows that Yaira isn't from Earth, then it would lead me to believe that he's keeping tabs on not just the Earth, but the far reaches of the cosmos. And in that, could he have met Zalen? And are we going to get a Dokuman card of Zalen in that third deck? Speculation, but that would be a really cool thing if we did. And it would be a nice, awesome teaser for Zalen if Dokuman had a little spot for him in his archives. But we're going to go and tie the next character that I think is related to both Dokuman is, of course, Bloodruth. So Bloodruth is mentioned by Dokuman. Her Dokuman card is what clues you in. So if you read her Dokuman card, you wouldn't be surprised that you saw her as basically the only daughter in the cover D of Bloodruth #1, because she's mentioned as the youngest, the only daughter of the Bloodruth family line, which is, again, a very interesting thing. So she's got brothers, she's got, a father and mother, of course. And of course, she's a Hellion hunter, and she's being, or she's tasked because of the bloodline. This seems to be a covenant made by God. So it just leads us to question, and I've mentioned this before, when it was first revealed, this circle that she's sitting in. I'm not sure if you can see it. It says Adonai. I believe it says Ishmael. You've got Yak or Jacques, another name. But, like I said, Adonai is a mention to Lord God. It's spelled a bit differently. And then you've got, I believe this says I believe would be Ishmael, and Ishmael is the son of Abraham and Hagar. That's, I believe, one of Sarah's maids in Egypt, and Ishmael is the descendant of the patriarch of the Ishmaelites. So it could be something along the lines that she was a child of, or the blood roof, the initial blood roof, the original blood roof was a child of Ishmael. And that's how God had a covenant with the blood roof family line is through Ishmael. And they're tasked with hunting the descendants of Cain, the descendants of Edom, which is, you have Jacob, that's the eldest son of Isaac, who is son of Abraham. And Isaac blesses Jacob instead of Esau. So Esau is basically cursed, and he moves to southern, like south of Israel, and that's where Edom is in the biblical narrative. So you could possibly have something where Blood Roof's family traces back to Ishmael, and she's hunting after the children of Cain and Edom, who in the Bible are mentioned to be fallen. Because they don't have that blessing and they're not maintaining that covenant that God made with Abraham, gave to Isaac, and then gave to Jacob. And Jacob is basically becomes Israel, and his 12 sons are the 12 tribes of Israel. There's a little biblical history for you there, but it definitely seems, especially with the trailer, that the Blood Roof story is basically based on that canon that's set in the Old Testament. And it's basically this little bit of fiction that's woven into that story, and that's going to be part of the universe that makes up the Rippaverse, right? And of course, we've got Neptune there, and Neptune, knowing Yara, could he be one of a race, a member of the Yara's race? I don't think Zalon, because he doesn't have the pointy ears, he doesn't have that same Vulcan look, but maybe, who knows? There's a lot of really interesting stuff that comes with the fact that they're pulling from Greco-Roman mythology, the fact that they've got, all of these, like biblical stories being tied in with the Blood Roof line, which really makes me interested in getting Blood Roof even more than I already was before, with like all this stuff that you can do if you're going to have like an Old Testament character. And what I mean is that, or you have a character who traces her lineage back to figures in the Old Testament, because it's a really rich narrative, and most of the Bible is the Old Testament. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on, not only just the Pentateuch, but the rest of the Old Testament as well. Like Chronicles. So you've got stuff that happens with David and Solomon, and Elijah and Isaiah. So there's a lot of stuff that could go on in that era that they mention, and not only that, but before, with like I said, the time of Ishmael and Abraham, and of course going on to the time of Moses. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with Blood Roof, just as her own character. And then, like I said before, I'm going to tie this back and link this back up with Dokuman. Dokuman is the only other character that Dokuman knows of, aside from Blood Roof, that can travel through other dimensions. So Blood Roof has gone to other dimensions. And does she meet Blood Roof in one of those other, or does Dokuman meet Blood Roof in one of those other dimensions? What those other dimensions are, we're going to find that out in Blood Roof _1, since this isn't an origin story. So we've got room in the narrative for her to do stuff like that, rather than establishing how she came, to be. Or I imagine a Blood Roof origin story would start with the origin of the Blood Roof family and end with basically Blood Roof being raised to be a Hellion Hunter. I believe that's how you would do a 0 issue of Blood Roof. That's just the way I view it. But if you're not doing that, since it's not an origin story, and it's just establishing how she came to Flores Park, in between her leaving where she was before Flores Park and coming to Flores Park, did she do some interdimensional travels, and did she run into Dokuman? And could that be the first appearance that Dokuman has in a Blood Roof book? I think it's a distinct possibility, and I think if it doesn't happen in Blood Roof, there's a decent chance it would happen with Zalon. Like I said, Dokuman just strikes me as being this more of a cosmic figure rather than one that operates solely on Earth. So I think you would be keeping tabs on characters like Zalon, or the regions of the universe that Zalon concerns himself with. So I am very interested in seeing if Dokuman appears in Zalon, or if he appears in Blood Roof. But anyway, I do want him to be in a Rippaverse book in Interiors, getting him out of the realm of just the trading cards, or just the Dokubon cards, I should say, because they are really cool regardless, and I love them, and I love Dokumon's archives, but I want him to have like an appearance in the book and get him established in the narrative and characterized a little bit more than he is just describing other characters. And of course, having him be part of a really cool storyline as well is something that I'm looking forward to. So I want them to make it happen. And I think it could really happen in Blood Roof #1 if between the time, like I said, she's in Florist Park and she's wherever she was before. She was in Florist Park. She does some interdimensional traveling. She bumps into Dokumon, and there's a really tense interaction, I would imagine. And it's something that, I don't know, he might not have mentioned in the Dokumon card, or something that, is intentionally left out because that would have been a spoiler. Who knows? But the fact that, he doesn't mention meaning Bloodroof specifically in the Dokumon card, I think is a point against this. But like I said, this is wild speculation. I always love just thinking what's going to happen next. And that's part of the whole fun of comics, is that you finish reading an issue and you want to know what happens next. And, this is a whole comic book universe, so there's a lot of things that could happen next. Because like I said, this is multiple overlapping storylines that work off and build each other up. And that's really the real fun of the comic book universe, because it just allows you to have just such a sense of intrigue and so many things to be intrigued by and to speculate on. But I think with that, I'm going to end it here. I don't have much else for you guys today. Rippaverse is still pretty successful, or I should say, it never stopped being successful. Just looking on Twitter, Eric saying that the sales are doing well. So we've got a really nice fandom. Part of this fandom, as part of the Rippaverse fandom, appreciate you being here. Be part of the Braxcast consistent viewer base. Very small, but I appreciate you guys as well. Of course, this is super fun to be talking about the Rippaverse. I love that. There's a lot of passion. I love that, people look at the books and enjoy them. And I love that there are books to enjoy. So I just am feeling really good. Love speculating. And The Horseman is coming soon, so look out for that review. And of course, Bloodroof is on the horizon as well, and Ice and Free is being colored, I should say. So that'll be coming soon. Of course, who knows what they got cooking up under the NDAs. But that'll all be for some time in the future. For now, Joker is out. Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.